Hey there, everyone. We'll get started here in just a minute. We're going to check in on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Luna, Sol, Mana, and then I will chat with all of you and interact with the YouTube live crew. Hope you're all having a good day. Decent time for a live stream. We've got some volatility and some confusing short-term action. So hopefully by the end of this stream, we'll clear up a bit more what we're looking at. We're going to look bigger picture on monthly time frames and zoom in from there because the monthly time frames are nice and clear as well. Monthly and weekly charts, very clear, which is a good thing. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start with the S&P 500 because we know that there is a correlation with the broader market and we have to be paying attention to it. And we know there was a buy the news event as far as the actual invasion into Ukraine. And it was a buy the news event because we got headline after headline of the attacks coming. The tanks are moving closer. Check out the videos. Within 48 hours, every single headline we would drop in reaction to it, pricing it in more and more. So it wasn't 100% priced in because we got the news of the official invasion and we did see one more leg down, but it was the vast majority was priced in and that marked the bottom. So now we have a momentum shift trying to take place and the burden is on the bulls. And we can see there very quickly here, we've had the original bounce, we topped out, and now we have an attempt at a quick little bull flag into continuation. So it's a really bullish day out there for the stock market. SPY's up 2% right now, which is a lot for the S&P 500. And essentially we're watching a couple of headlines. We know that the charts are king, but we want to know what headlines are going to be perceived bullish and bearish. And at this point, pretty much, Ukraine headlines, not as meaningful. Something like China getting involved with Taiwan, that would be bearish headlines to be paying attention to. But on the bull side of things, we're looking at any de-escalation or peace talks being a bullish headline. And then another headline is we're watching the Fed. Is the Fed going to continue to raise rates as they have been preparing the market for the last couple of months? They've had a very hawkish tone, or are they going to back off a little bit because of this Ukraine situation and things have changed a bit? So today we got a little bit from both bullish headlines. We got Ukraine and Russia are supposed to be talking tomorrow. So, who knows if that will turn into anything, but a little bit of bullish perception there. And then Powell was testifying today and Bitcoin was reacting significantly to the broader market and to Powell. They're all reacting together. And Powell was saying, initially we were anticipating on raising rates every single FOMC from here on out for the rest of the year before the Ukraine situation. So it was almost a little bit of a backtrack. And so the market perceived his words as meaning, we might not be seeing as many rates raised as we were initially anticipating. I just stopped out break even on a SQQQ position, trying for a little top fish. That's what you're seeing in the bottom right of my screen there. So Powell with a little bit of a comment that gave some bullish indication, and now the market is pricing in, okay, maybe the Fed's going to back off a little bit. And so the broader market is having a nice green day. That being said, Bitcoin is seeing a bit of relative weakness in the short term. We can say Bitcoin has been stronger than the broader market ever since we had that big old bull day. And that was, 2 days ago. It feels like so much longer. So that was on Monday, big bull leg up, but bears are defending resistance. So first, let's start with the monthly. On the monthly time frame, we've got our previous all-time high, low of consolidation, new all-time high, higher low is trying to form. We can say that anything above 28.8 is a monthly higher low. And currently we dropped down to 32.9. So it's a monthly inside bar. The month just closed in February. Monthly inside bar is now set. So if we break the monthly inside bar bullish, the monthly higher low is set at 32.9, and then I'm going to scout a monthly lower high, anything under 69,000. We will have to be cautious of a head and shoulders at that point, if that does play out. That being said, I would have anticipated a monthly lower high here as well, but we V-shaped to a new higher high. So there'll be a lot of factors, one of them being volume. I'll be keeping a close eye on volume. I'll be keeping a close eye on the broader market, but gotta be aware of the possibility that a monthly lower high is the result of this bounce. But first things first, we gotta break resistance. So the weekly is trying to shape up the trend change. There's our low. weekly lower high of the bounce was 45.9. We held monthly support, and we have to break 45.9. So we're seeing a bit of relative weakness to the broader market today, in my opinion, because we have a resistance level that everybody's looking at, and the bears are defending it. So that resistance at 45.9, we got real close. We got within 1%, essentially, of that resistance today. And bears are going to defend that level as best they can. And even in, part of the Chart Guys chat room, we have traders that are just top fishing that level and entering bearish positions because the risk and reward is favorable. And, you can even be bullish and enter a bearish position. How does that make any sense? If I've got bullish positions or I've got long-term no-touch positions, if I enter bearish at 45.3 and I put my stop over 46,000, there's potential. If we reject and form a weekly equilibrium, that's going to act as a hedge against my long-term no-touch positions. So there are definitely traders playing off of that level. And today we had a significant bull break from 15-minute oversold conditions, which we'll look at in just a second. Bull break to a new high, but now we're giving it back. And again, that's just bears, in my opinion, defending that resistance level. So what I'm watching in the short term right now is a number of things. First off, we have bulls that are aggressively buying short-term oversold conditions, back burners. We had a big-time bull move from our lows, which gives bulls confidence in saying like, I didn't have a position that I wanted, or I didn't have an entry come to me. I was waiting for Luna, hourly oversold conditions, and it never happened. So now I'm looking, okay, well, I'm going to be more aggressive, and I'm going to be entering on 15-minute oversold conditions. And so just an example of that from Trader Pro, where we had Bitcoin 15-minute oversold conditions, the back burner fired off, and the bulls significantly bought that dip, and we ended up shooting up $2,000 in an hour and a half from there. So that's a good sign. Bulls want to see that. Bulls want to see short-term oversold conditions leading to bounces that are big enough to tag higher highs, because that shows us aggressive dip buying. But where we stand right now, I'm looking at this as a low, high, and this is an hourly high or low attempt. We know after we see significant volatility in both directions to scout equilibriums. And we had a 15-minute equilibrium shape up, and it did break bear. So it was the low, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low, lower, high, higher, low, failed resistance, and then rolled over. That being said, we are now scouting an hourly equilibrium. So if the bulls can hold 43.3 here and set an hourly high or low, we're going to do the equilibrium game again. And we're going to look for a bounce into a lower high and then a higher low and just tighten up. So if we get bull follow through from here, then we're going to be looking for this equilibrium to tighten up potentially for the next 8+ hours. But the bulls still have proving to do in the short term. First things first, we need a 5-minute trend change to the bulls as step number 1 for the hourly higher low to try and be shaping up. If we see a bear break, that will be the first loss of the 4-hour higher lows since the big bull move 2 days ago, because every consolidation period since then has been a little higher low, a higher low, a higher low. So if we get the bear break, I will then zoom out and scout a daily higher low. And that's when we scout hourly oversold conditions. So if we were to get a bear break, the hourly RSI would be approaching the 30s, and we would scout daily EMA 12, which is going to try and be catching up, and a daily higher low, because anything above 37,000 is a daily higher low. So the bulls have a ton of space to work with. And I know that I will be interested in hourly oversold bounces next time we see them in the cryptocurrency space. So that's something we're watching for as well. So again, get those back burners on watch, because they have been the entry opportunities the last 3 days on our lead bulls, because they are short-lived dips that have been bought up fairly significantly. So we know Bitcoin has 2 scenarios that are going to play out over the next week. We are either going to break this weekly resistance or reject and form a continued tightening range. It's possible we reject initially, set a little daily bull flag, and then break resistance. But again, we're just going to take it one day at a time and constantly shift our probabilities as to what's the most likely scenario, a resistance break or a rejection. And for me, if we're keeping, the 4-hour higher lows going, then that resistance is remaining within striking distance. So that's all I care about in the short term. Can we hold the low from this morning? And if yes, I'll be watching for the tightening range. If not, patiently waiting for hourly oversold conditions for a daily higher low. Dominance chart is doing something different. So the dominance chart is shifting in the sense that we have been used to, more often than not, we get a Bitcoin bull move up, confidence in the crypto space, Bitcoin trades sideways within a range, and then altcoins exceed the Bitcoin move and take another leg up. And we've had plenty of periods of consolidation. If there was any time to do it, it would be right here, where Bitcoin just traded sideways on the hourly for 12 hours. But while that took place, let's look at it on the dominance chart. The 28th at 1800 to the 1st. So 28 at 1800. We kept going up. So normally, if you're going to see confidence bleed into alts and alts get their turn, you would see the dominance chart drop from that point forward. And Bitcoin would be trading sideways, and the dominance chart is dropping, showing us that alt BTC pairings are going up. But it did not happen. We had a slow climb up while Bitcoin traded sideways. So there's a difference in the last couple of days as to the relationship between alts and Bitcoins. And again, there's the narrative with the Russia situation. You know, are we seeing Russia try and move around capital with their stock market being closed and their currency being smashed? And I am more likely to believe it because I am noticing a shift in the character of how Bitcoin and altcoins are relating to each other. So it's very clearly Bitcoin has been in the spotlight for this move up over the last 3 days. And so that is unfortunate for altcoin bulls. There are definitely a handful of altcoins that are doing what we're used to in terms of outperforming. But as far as altcoins as a whole, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing them underperform. And so the dominance chart right now in the weekly time frame, we know, again, I've been highlighting how this dominance chart, when it breaks, is going to give us significant volatility in the crypto space. And I'm just watching this tightening range, and I'm watching for a weekly lower high, anything under 477, still a long ways away. You know, we've been moving up over the last 7 weeks, notably, but in those last 7 weeks, we've seen a 5% move up, and we still have another 3.7% to go. So I'm watching the pattern of a higher low every week for the last 7 weeks, a stair-step pattern. And check out our YouTube channel, Stair-Step Chart Guys, if you don't know what the stair-step pattern is. But if we set the lower high compared to 477 and continue tightening up, then this chart is going to be one to watch for middle of this year for the direction that it breaks. But a strong move, and that is showing us that Bitcoin is leading on the way up. And not only is it leading on the way up, but it's consolidating less. Altcoins are pulling back harder and going up less significantly. So again, the last 3 days, I've noticed a notable character shift, and it's definitely making me pay more attention to Bitcoin than I have in a while. You know, I'm always paying attention to Bitcoin, but I'm trading the altcoins while watching Bitcoin. And if this dominance chart stays strong, I'm going to be more prone to trading Bitcoin instead of altcoins, as long as that remains the case. So bigger picture, I mean, if you just stay tuned on our YouTube channel, because you will hear me talk about this dominance chart a lot as we get ready for it to continue tightening up and then eventually break. And again, as I pointed out many times, the periods where this dominance chart tightens up lead to the most significant volatility periods very shortly after. And what we are seeing right now is one of the longest drawn out tightening ranges in the last 5 years of history. Stocks are strong, still up at the highs. Bitcoin not really benefiting on the 5-minute time frame right now. And there were some words, you know, Powell saying cryptocurrency is a way to get around, I forget exactly what he said, but whether it was sanctions or get around law enforcement, you know, there was definitely a little bit of a negative tone. But he also said that there is definitely a place for stable coins and blah, blah, blah. There could be more than one reserve currency, he said. So definitely a whole lot of reacting to Powell today. So dominance, Ethereum. So Ethereum on the monthly, same clarity as Bitcoin. We're scouting a monthly high or low, anything above 1700. And we're well above 1700 right now. And we just formed a monthly inside bar, same thing. We're not as close to breaking weekly resistance. And that's because the Bitcoin dominance chart is strong. So without even looking, I know that ETH BTC is weak. And we have to see that change if Ethereum is going to gain strength compared to Bitcoin. So if you show me Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're two charts together, I can easily tell you that it is more likely that Ethereum sets a weekly lower high than Bitcoin. How can I say that? Because the percentage move that's needed for Ethereum is much more significant right now than is needed on Bitcoin. So anything under 3285 is just a weekly lower high. and there is the potential for a weekly equilibrium. And if that were to shape up, it could be another 2-3 weeks before we get a clear break. So bulls just want to keep short-term momentum, get over that weekly resistance, the sooner the better, to prevent the possibility of that lower high. We had the daily trend change to the bulls. We have the 4-hour uptrend as our guide. We still are forming 4-hour higher lows. Last one, 29.14, testing that level right now. But a little bit of a rising wedge there, and I'm just seeing this now. So let's see if we can draw a good one. And again, it's just resistance breaks that lack follow through whenever I look for a rising wedge. So we had a high of 30.40 and we broke it by $5. So okay, I scout a rising wedge. So that's what I'd be keeping an eye on. If we were to pull back towards this support, it would just be a daily higher low. But if we do get a bear break from here, I am going to be keeping an eye on this pattern, because if this were to continue playing out, and if we were to pull back, set a daily higher low, bounce and fail to break the high and break this pattern bear, that's our weekly lower high being set. So I will be paying attention to this. And again, ETH BTC, bulls need to be cautious because we've been in a monthly uptrend on this pairing for years at this point. And we're looking for a monthly higher low, anything above 593. But bulls are struggling for that monthly higher low to form. And we're looking right now at a low of 644. Bulls are hoping that that's the higher low to keep EMA 12 support, to keep this uptrend going. But recently, we can see the weekly chart is in a downtrend. And we're looking at that low. Pretty much if we're going to see a reversal here, we need to hold that low and break that high. And we just have a good bit of bear momentum on the ETH BTC pairing. You can see there's some nice bounces mixed in there, but overall it's a downtrend. So again, if we look back at this chart, and again, I know a lot of people are confused by these pairings. It does take a while to wrap your brain around. But if I look at this chart, what is it showing me? It is showing me that my money is better served being in Bitcoin than Ethereum over the last couple of months. And that's the simple way to break it down. Whenever I'm looking at ETH or Mana BTC, whatever BTC pairing, it's telling me, should I have my money in Bitcoin or should I have it in this altcoin? And this chart says Bitcoin over Ethereum over the last 3 months. We're watching for that to change. If this chart can form a monthly higher low and get a bounce going, then it will be Ethereum over Bitcoin. But at this point in time, that is not the case. So that has to change. The sooner the better for the Ethereum bulls. And again, it's for me as a trader, I could care less which coin I'm in, but this just helps me to know where am I going to see better gains. And the better gains, nice transition, have certainly been in Luna. Luna is just on fire over the last 2 weeks, exploding to the upside, a very quick monthly higher low being set at 43.44. And it doesn't look like it, it looks like healthy monthly consolidation, but we pulled back 60% to get there. And then everything changed. I think the last time I live streamed, I pointed out these weekly inside bars. And so much of trading and technical analysis, I can't tell you how many times I'm in positions where I enter a position and I set a stop loss, and then things play out way differently than I would have anticipated. So I pointed out these weekly inside bars, but I could not have told you that when they break, if it's a bull break, we're looking for a new all-time high. I would not have said that because I would not have expected it. But it's positioning ourselves to benefit from that. Right now, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but I'm in an NIO trade. And NIO, I'm scouting a daily higher low. And I was only planning on playing a 15-minute oversold bounce this morning. So I entered my bounce trade. I set my stop. I traded around a falling wedge a little bit. And here I am in this position still, now thinking about swing trading it because the market environment shifted. We got a bullish reaction to Powell. We have the potential of little daily bull flags forming. So I could not have told you that I would still be in this trade looking to swing it when I first entered it. But my stop loss didn't hit. So here I am shifting my game plan a little bit because of how the bigger picture has shifted. So that's the same kind of thing. Anybody that entered Luna BTC on these weekly inside bars breaking, pleasantly surprised if they let that trade play out. And again, I pointed out in a recent video where Bitcoin, or I should say Luna, was not looking strong. This is what Luna was doing when that Luna BTC inside bar broke bull. It was right here. And it was a weak day. Nothing stands out whatsoever. And then from that point forward, it was just an absolute ripper of 100% move. And so the BTC pairing had the first initial clue for the bulls and then significant follow through. And now the BTC pairing is at all-time highs. So we're due for some daily consolidation here. We're watching the 4-hour uptrend. Again, getting a little toppy. This is definitely a rising wedge right now. So if I'm a Luna bull, I'm definitely locking in a bit of profit. Could have it as a channel. I'd probably have it as a channel. So just breaking bear a bit from that channel, or we can include this price action. Then it's a bit more of a wedge. Either way, just some initial signs that some consolidation is incoming. Still a 4-hour uptrend. And if I want to give the bulls a longer leash, then 4-hour higher lows still coming. Luna USDT, still a 4-hour uptrend, still EMA 12 support. So you could definitely draw a rising wedge here. We know in the most bullish environments, rising wedges break bullish. So 4-hour uptrend is a more clear guide, in my opinion. Rising wedges shaping up can tell us to be a bit cautious, but 4-hour higher lows. So for me, I would call anything above 86.11 a 4-hour higher low. There was a tiny little level in here, but for me, that's just a little hourly higher low. But bulls certainly want to hold EMA 12 to keep their complete control. And again, I'm always watching the spotlight because it's a direct correlation. If you look at the Luna BTC and the Luna USD chart, you can't tell the difference when I do this. And that means there is a significant direct correlation. And bulls really want that to remain the case because oftentimes before we see bigger picture consolidation, the BTC pairing will start to show us a little bit of weakness first. And I'm not seeing that on Luna. I'm seeing them doing the exact same thing still. So they are still in the spotlight as far as their correlation. And when I say the spotlight is fading, that tells me that the BTC pairing is starting to show a little bit of initial weakness before the US dollar pairing. And again, it was the BTC pairing on the weekly giving the bull signal before the US dollar pairing would have given me a bull signal. I've got a close eye on Sol, but there is proving that needs to be done. I'm scouting a monthly higher low. Big breakout, big pullback. I have used that monthly setup in 2021 multiple times. On Bitcoin, I used it. On NIO, I used it. On a couple other stocks, I used it. And it was a good money maker. So keeping an eye out for the monthly higher low to shape up into a bounce. But what I need to see, again, it's the BTC pairing. The BTC pairing is looking for a monthly higher low. It's testing monthly EMA 12. But the daily chart is still not convincing. Look at these upper wicks. The bulls are trying, but I can make a simple statement and say, I am not going to trust the sole US dollar bulls to be lead bulls unless that resistance level breaks. And you can see we're just mostly trading sideways for the last 3 weeks. And we have to break bull here to gain attention. And Sol has had great moves over the last 3 weeks, but so has a lot of the crypto space. So it's a daily trend change to the bulls, but if we zoom out, we're still in a weekly downtrend. And anything under 121.93 is just a weekly lower high to remain in a downtrend. So again, this is another way that I use the pairing. I will be paying a lot more attention to Sol as a bull if this BTC pairing gives me the highest level it's seen in 3 weeks, because that will be the first indication of a monthly higher low trying to shape up. And as we saw with Luna, things can go real quick once that momentum shifts. So that for me would be the first indication of momentum shifting. So I can just put a little alert at that level and just say, I don't really have much interest in Sol if that is resistance. And if that level breaks, definitely going to be a lot more aggressive trying to trade Sol. So it doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean there's not good gains to be had. We just saw a big time 20, 30% move. But if it's going to be sustained and see significant follow through, that BTC break is needed. So Sol USD is still a 4-hour uptrend, 4-hour EMA 12. So there are definitely some altcoins that are still holding up just fine. Bitcoin struggling to give us this hourly higher low. We can say Bitcoin is not positioned well if the broader market sees any kind of meaningful consolidation. But we'll see if these stronger names can keep 4-hour EMA 12. Again, just go down our list here and we can organize it and say, all right, many of our strongest names are still holding 4-hour EMA 12. How about our weaker names? SHIB is losing it. Theta is losing it. Mana is losing it. One chart on Theta I'm keeping an eye on. Theta BTC has been a crystal clear weekly downtrend. And I know I've been keeping an eye on the LTC BTC long-term falling wedge. I am paying a lot less attention to that now. And I highlighted it a bunch of times and say, I am watching this pattern, and guess how much money I'm going to lose if this pattern breaks bear? $0. 90% of the charts that I watch and put time into for technical analysis, I don't trade. I try and pick the better setups. I have setups that I keep an eye on, but this trade never came to me. I made one attempt recently to enter Litecoin and I stopped out break even. So this is a clear bear break. The falling wedge, the trademark of a falling wedge is bear breaks with a lack of follow through. But the current bear break that we are seeing is the most significant follow through that we've seen in a few months. So that means I care way less about this chart and I may never look at it again. I will keep checking in on it, but I'm not going to make any trades based off of it. So move on. I didn't put a whole bunch of time into it, and the trade never came to me. So Theta BTC has been rejecting from weekly EMA 12 and setting weekly lower highs forever. I mean, look at the last year. Just rejection, 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 rejection. This is something to keep an eye on. Bigger picture, again, what's the most likely scenario? For me, this is the 2-month time frame. Big time breakout, big time pullback. Eventually, we will likely see a bounce. But we don't want to just buy and hope that a bounce is taking place. We want to see the momentum shift take place before we're going to pay any attention to it. So it's a very clear statement. If weekly EMA 12 is resistance, the bulls are not proving a thing because that's been resistance for 10 months at this point. So there's two things that I can do with this chart. I can look to trade Theta USDT bearish because it's a lead bear as long as this chart's in a downtrend, but I'm definitely paying attention for a shift to take place on this chart. Because again, when the shifts take place on the BTC pairings, they are fast and hard, but nothing really shaping up at this point. So as long as it remains weak, it's a lead bear for me. But again, I'm not going to get comfortable and just assume it's always going to be a lead bear. This is definitely a pattern I'm going to keep an eye on for if the shift takes place. Over the last few years, some of the best altcoin entries were long, drawn-out BTC pairing falling wedges that eventually broke bull. And I think even Ethereum was one way back when. So back here, Ethereum would just grind forever weak and then just leveled out, and that momentum shift was massive. Obviously, Ethereum has a lot more attention given to it than a lot of these other altcoins, but again, it's worth paying attention to. Mana USD, trying to set a weekly high or low, but struggling. I have been trading Mana a lot recently. The volatility has been great, but there is one thing that has to happen for me to keep trading it, and it's right here on the BTC pairing. You can see how much influence, it's the wrong word, how much weight I put into these BTC pairings. This is a potential 12-hour falling wedge, but we need to bounce right now. And I'm looking at the weekly chart here. We have our low of consolidation, our high of the bounce, and we're scouting a weekly high or low, anything above 50.12. And there's a ton of space for it to form, but if we're going to set that high or low, it needs to happen here and now for this potential 12-hour falling wedge, because the best case scenario for the Mana bulls would be a bounce here, maybe one more lower high, and eventually a bull break to set the weekly high or low. But if we fall through this support, that's definitely a red flag for me. I'll still be watching for a weekly high or low, but I will be much less interested trading Mana because of this weakness. Again, this just tells me I'm better off the last 5 days trading Bitcoin than Mana, and I'm better off trading the other stronger altcoins than Mana. So if the BTC pairing is weak, that tells me there are better places to be trading as a bull. And Mana right now, daily trend change with no real follow through, it's looking like a little bit of a rising wedge as well. And it's just not doing anything for these bulls. And it's because that BTC pairing is not finding a bottom. So that is key for me the next 12 hours or so. We just got a clear downtrend on the hourly. Have to see this momentum shift for a 12-hour high or low. And then we scout the 12-hour lower high to be the result of that bounce, but that would at least tell me, okay, Mana has a fighting chance to see Mana BTC form a weekly higher low and stay within one of the stronger coins, stay one of the stronger coins comparative to Bitcoin. And that's what I want to do when I'm looking at bull. Again, I always want to organize. If I'm looking bullish, these are the 3 coins that I'm focusing mostly on. And it has been, Mana has been right at the top of that list for the last month plus. And over the last 3 days, that's drastically shifting. So I may be interested, if I can align a bounce on Mana USD and Mana BTC taking place at the same time, that's when you get those nice solid gains. So maybe Mana USD, if we head to hourly oversold from here, hourly oversold, looking for a daily higher low, and looking for a Mana BTC bounce off that downtrending support, that may be one more trade that I'm interested in here. But again, if that Mana BTC chart continues to see weakness, Mana's getting the boot, and we'll find a new name, Luna and Sol, but only Sol if we break that resistance. So really, Bitcoin back in the focus, unless some of these altcoins prove to me that they are a better watch than Bitcoin is. So that is where I stand overall. Bears right now, again, as I mentioned, bears are scouting weekly lower highs. Aggressive bears are positioning for the potential that we reject from resistance and continue to tighten up on these weekly time frames. And I would choose the weaker alts. I would choose an altcoin that has a BTC pairing that is in a downtrend. I personally wouldn't be choosing Bitcoin because it's seen so much relative strength the last 3 days. I'd be watching Theta. I'd be watching, I bet SHIB has had a pretty weak chart recently. I don't even know if there is a SHIB BTC pairing. Doge BTC, again, just daily downtrend. That's what you want to see. If I'm shorting, that's what the BTC pairing wants to look like. Because that shows me that every step back that Bitcoin is taking, the altcoin's taking 2 steps back. And for every step forward that Bitcoin's taking, the alt is taking a less significant step forward. All right, I'm reading the chat room now. Silver, let's talk silver. Metals are positioned real well. Silver, I'm watching this 4-hour cup and handle, and it's going to break bull. I just said that because we'll see, but I was scouting an entry today and got distracted. But if you look at the retracement of this silver from the low to the high of this bounce, bull flag still possible. And SLV is at its high of the day. Nice bounce off the low of the day. Held the 4-hour higher low. And again, if you look bigger picture on these metals, momentum is trying to shift back. Gold is a little bit closer to breaking to a higher high. Just grinding. This is the 2-month time frame. It's taken a long time, but just grinding the 2-month EMA 12, trying to head back to the recent high. Their gains are definitely boring compared to Bitcoin and crypto. Gold going 5% is huge. Bitcoin can do 5% in its sleep. So the place to go is the leveraged miner ETFs. And we can see off the low, that's a 50% move over the last month. So, that's where the volatility is, the leveraged instruments. But the metals are worth paying attention to. Copper, nobody cares about copper, but copper does have a nice bull setup here. Grinding monthly EMA 12, heading back up to the recent high, and trying for continued breakout. So pay attention to these commodities. And uranium names have been doing well. CCJ, monthly. It looks a lot like Bitcoin. We had the higher high was more significant than Bitcoin's higher high. But we're riding monthly EMA 12. Big time bull move the last week. Just got sidetracked. Do I think Luna will keep going? I think Luna bulls are going to attempt an all-time high. But again, it depends on Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin going to break weekly resistance? If yes, Luna is likely going to see an all-time high. If no, if we reject and we form a weekly equilibrium, then it's possible that Luna fails its all-time high and needs to see more significant weekly consolidation. So the most important question for me on Luna is not, what's Luna doing? It's can Bitcoin break weekly resistance, or does it fail here? because the Luna bulls are positioned real well for all-time highs if Bitcoin can get over this weekly resistance. XLM BTC, absolutely, it's another great one. We get beat up to the point where, I want to see a bounce take place and scout the lower high to enter bearish on the US dollar pairing. But yeah, these names that are just in perpetual downtrends are the names to be looking bearish on. Quit your job, Silver. Any thoughts on FTM? The first thing, I already know what the Bitcoin chart looks like, so I want to look at the FTM BTC chart. Daily trend change to the bulls for the first time in a couple months is notable. Is a monthly higher low shaping up? It's trying to. So just going to scout a weekly lower high to be a result of this bounce, but the bounce is underway. So definitely stands out, but we need follow through because we just changed the daily trend and we don't want to top out now. We need to set a healthy 4-hour higher low and keep that move going. As far as the US dollar pairing, anything under 240 is just a weekly lower high. So high, low, lower high, higher low, and I would certainly be looking for a lower high compared to 337 to be the result of this bounce. I like the 2-week time frame to smooth things out, just to clear equilibrium. We need another leg up, and if we get it, we scout the equilibrium. Have to watch retracement size here. Bulls want 50% retracement on this move, so they want to head up to 230s to create space off of this new higher low attempt to try and see continuation of the formation of this equilibrium. Link has been weaker for sure. Link BTC just absolutely crushed. A period where it did real well. I don't know if there was news associated with that to start the new year, but overall, prolonged downtrend. And the stronger altcoins are the ones whose BTC pairings are in uptrends. If your BTC pairing is in a monthly, weekly, daily downtrend, it's going to require a lot of work to shift that momentum. Link is falling out of favor big time. And we're in a monthly downtrend. We broke monthly support. So you can find 150 altcoins that are in monthly uptrends right now, and Link is not one of them. We are in a monthly and weekly downtrend. We did change the daily trend to the bulls, but again, there's just when you're on so many time frames have downtrends, it just takes so long to change the trends. We got to change the weekly trend. Then we need to bounce and set up a monthly trend change. And it's just a long, slow road to try and shift that momentum back to the bulls once you lose it. I personally don't short crypto. There's not an exchange that meets my requirements of liquidity, FDIC insurance. That's pretty much all I require at this point. And FTX US, its volume is less than 10% of Coinbase. So it's just not enough. I know volume and liquidity are different things, but they're certainly related. And I just don't have a place that I am comfortable moving any kind of significant capital because I need that FDIC insurance. And again, it's different. If I am taking a smaller amount of capital and trying to be aggressive and get some big gains in crypto, I will take that money over to an exchange that doesn't have FDIC insurance, absolutely. But having already exceeded all of my goals in 2017, and at this point, again, I'm no longer aggressive. I'm just in cruise control. Just give me 10% a year and I am a happy camper for the rest of my life. And it's not worth it to me to take a big chunk of capital and risk the 1% chance that something happens to an exchange and I don't have the FDIC insurance to back up that capital. So everybody's different. If I were putting in 10% of the capital that I want to, then I would put it anywhere and it would be whatever. I've been using fibs I used to look at a chart and say, to me, this looks like a daily lower high is the most likely scenario. I learned trading without fibs, but then I learned that I can translate what's going on in my head to you all better by using fibs, by just making the rules. Okay, if we hold 382, it's a potential bull flag. I used to just say, this looks to me like minimal enough consolidation that we could see continuation. Well, that doesn't really translate to a newer trader to help them. So it really just gave me a definitive visual and clear definitive statements that I can teach people in terms of when to expect equilibriums, when to expect flags, when to expect continuation versus tightening ranges. And fibs really opened that up in terms of clarity for translation from what's going on in my brain from not using fibs for 8 to 9 years of trading to being able to translate all of that. I've played around with Ichi clouds. I probably put in 10 hours of studying it back when I was learning technical analysis, but it never stuck in terms of just wasn't an ideal style. There are better Ichi. Again, whenever I look at any kind of aspect of technical analysis, there's a better Ichi trader out there than me. There's a better Elliott wave trader out there than me. There's a better fib trader out there than me. There's a better tape trader. There's a better fundamental trader out there than me. They all exist. So I can't say anything's better than the other thing. It just depends on the individual. And I find price action and my style a lot more useful than Ichi clouds, but I'm not going to, talk smack about Ichi clouds because I know someone out there is using it and doing really well. Grow your own food. It's a simple answer. It's about that time. That's what I'm doing this weekend. Don't hold your assets on exchanges, but you certainly have to hold your capital on exchanges to trade. And being a trader, that's a significant amount of capital for me. Bitcoin trying to get this bounce going. Need that 5-minute trend change to set the hourly higher low. Then we scout an hourly lower high. Intuition is definitely useful in trading, but you don't get intuition until you have tons and tons of experience. And even then, it's a dangerous combo of, okay, I've got a ton of experience and I've proven to myself that I can be successful. Then your ego comes into play. And then your intuition can blind you if your ego is not kept in check. And maybe my ego and my intuition makes me not put a stop loss because I'm really sure. And then I have a 20% loss to humble me back down to size. So I definitely intuition is a thing. We just have to keep it in check. Keep the ego in check. All right, well, I am done. Keeping an eye on uptrends in the broader market. I'm watching to see if we see hourly consolidation in the S&P 500 and in the NASDAQ. How does Bitcoin respond? Does that lead to Bitcoin starting daily consolidation? Because I look at SPY, bull all day, QQQ bull all day. Hourly consolidation is inevitable. All right, I appreciate you all watching. We got our short-term and bigger picture setups. It's all about weekly resistance. The bears will defend it, as they have today. All coins are underperforming Bitcoin. We're watching very closely to see how long that remains the case, because it is a definite character shift. And keeping a close eye on the stair-step pattern on the weekly BTC dominance pattern. Mana BTC, you better bounce right now, or you're getting the boot from my top watch list. Don't forget to do good things out there, everybody. grow some food.